Hey guys, so hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Let's go and get started here. Appreciate y'all hanging in there, coming on in here. Hit that like button for me if you haven't already. Make sure you're hitting them reactions, all that good stuff. Hype button. Feel free to cash app all that good stuff. So, all right, let's get started here. So, I actually created that entire groove using the Enzo X, which is crazy. So everything from those drum sounds, the snares, hi-hats, kick, electronic kick, and most importantly for this video, of course, we did the pads and the chords and the clavy and the EP type sound, organ type sound. But the most important part is we did horns with the Enzo X. And the way I achieved that, of course, you have to understand that the Enzo X is a full-featured synth. That's the main part to understand here. It's a full feature synth, meaning you got two oscillators there, and you can do a ton with two oscillators. Create trumpet sounds. So, is that exactly a trumpet? No. But it is a really good synth version of it. And it's created using two oscillators in here. You also can do things like flute sounds. And just a reminder, same thing can be controlled. Let's get this in play. So even playing my bass, I still have access to these sounds. Oh, that would be why. I was like, what is going on with the track? And I had the POG 3 on. Sorry about that, guys. Trumpet sound as well. So, and things like this, you're also capable of doing on the Future Impact. Very similar things. But the Enzo X is, you could do all of that on the pedal, and everything, and plus it switches back and forth automatically, which is why I primarily like to use the Future Impact V4 for bass synths or even some lead stuff. But all my chordal and like sound building, I primarily do in the Enzo X. I also really like the tracking on the Enzo X. It's extraordinary when you really think about it. So you get access to all that type of stuff once you know how to build them. And I'm actually going to make these sounds available in the Enzo X update, Enzo X preset pack update, rather. Hold on 1 second. All right, just wanted to make sure we was good. Okay. So you even got your saxophone sound. Even get your little trill going on there. Yeah, that's thanks to the Enzo X. It's the Enzo X synth day, you know what I'm saying? So a lot of people don't know the Enzo X can do sounds like this. They know about the pads, they don't even know about the bass synths, really. And even things like a harmonica type sound. So this is what's the amazing. Appreciate that. It definitely takes some time to learn how to use it. It's mostly not even learning how to use it. If you already know how to use a synth, the Enzo X will be easy for you to operate. But I had a huge learning curve in synth, like I told you guys over the last few, I guess, months. Even brass section type things. Synth brass. And if I want to get that a little bit more brassy or a little bit more, I guess, brass pop in the beginning of that sound. So even if you wanted like a brass section type thing, you could do it that way. With the Enzo X. And all these, for me, a lot of times I'm not actually going for the actual sound. I just want to get in this case, a horn section-esque type sound. I'm not actually trying to get a stone cold brass sound, you know. Yeah, same effects work on bass as well. It's not even an effect, it's a synth. Sorry, I gotta adjust my EQ and stuff. So even right there, that was more user error than it was the pedal. It does like a particular type of EQ. Even the pads and all that type of stuff. You don't even have to, it just switches automatically. So you can even get sounds like this. You know, so you can get piano-esque type sounds. See why that's this oscillator. So you got lots of sounds, strings. You get string sounds, because that was part of that loop with strings as well. So you can pretty much get another little thing I like. So whatever the last chord you played just stays in there, right? So if I play, right, I can just, I'm just muting my strings. Another little thing, just experimenting with the pedal, find out what you can do. But yeah, you can get all types of sounds that you can build generally with other synths as well. But of course the Enzo X is in pedal form. See, it's not even too much bigger than my actual hand. Compared to back in the day, you had to have a room full of synthesizers to get that type of thing, or this big massive thing. But now it's the size of a regular pedal. You know, my Octaver pedal is bigger than my synth pedal. So, but you know, you had the clavy in there. So even clavinet is right there available to you. So I find as long as you start to really understand the Enzo X, you pretty much can build the majority of sounds you would find in keyboards. Like, I particularly like the saxophone I was able to build on here more than the saxophone and I've modeled it after a alto saxophone. And so let's put that, let me see, I got this motif over here cued up. So, sorry, a little MIDI note got stuck there. But, yeah, so I like that, but, you know, that's cool. But I wanted something with a little more personality. And I did build this out of the mono synth. So let me see if I just switch it over to polyphonic. No. Change everything. I like how I don't have to make any real adjustments there. I could just turn it from mono to poly and it'll do that. Let me see how that. So if I really want to play single lines, just have it on mono. If I want to play pad type stuff with the sound, of course, just put it on poly. So the only thing I would want, well, a few little things I would want them to add to the Enzo X, like the ability for the filter to do pitch follow, and make sure that when this is doing, either add a separate envelope for the noise generator, or make that noise generator, when it's tracking the bass, make sure that noise generator is still going through the filter. So what I mean is, when I'm playing the keyboard, the noise is included in the envelope, that filter envelope. When I begin to play, it's no longer part of my sound. It just becomes like it's on. So and this is something that took me forever to even notice, but you know, it's something that makes a huge difference, as you can see. So, just things for you to have to look out for sometimes with the unit. But you definitely are capable of creating some really high quality stuff. No, this is the Enzo X. Technically was built as a guitar synth, right? As a guitar pedal more so. And it just has MIDI. You're able to play the same sounds with MIDI, or it can track guitar or bass, or actually any instrument. It can track horns, other synths, you know what I'm saying? So it definitely has a lot of flexibility with it. The main thing you're going to want to look at with the tracking for whatever, based on whatever you're doing, is going to be that note persist, and that is in the amp envelope section. And so you want to play around with those times. Don't just leave it on infinite. Like, play around with the times and see, you know, exactly what works for you. You know, a lot of times around 11 seconds is working for my bass typically. So, and that allows it to track really well. So I'm pretty much going to stick with that. I might increase it for chordal stuff. But yeah, so back to this horn part here. So that's literally the Enzo X there, including the hi-hat. That's my regular bass. And I could have did synth bass. never run across any pedal for guitar or bass that could do all of that like that. You know what I'm saying? Yes, the rolling thing, all those sounds, I ain't gonna lie. The reason why I didn't get that rolling, what is it, VB99B or something like that, is all those joints sounded cheesy to me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I like much better having a real synthesizer that actually tracks well. I didn't have to add any MIDI input or MIDI pickup rather. I can just play and go back and forth between my bass and keys. So it makes my life so much simpler. You know, only other thing I got to do is really just grab an iPad, take my iPad with me, and then I got a piano and EP sound in there that I can layer with different things. Like if I wanted an actual piano sound on there, oh, it's not plugged in. And I could have this wirelessly, but I don't feel like having it wirelessly. I even like how, even though it's mono, it still lets you kind of like solo with another sound. But if you switch over to, see, go to sax, we're going to change that to polyphonic mode there. Or flute. See how the flute sounds in poly? So now I got piano, and of course this also has EP. And you can simply just be layering sounds. The arpeggiator is coming from the Enzo X. it really does have the ability to not just do basic old, you know, that would be the main difference between something like the MXR bass synth or even the C4 synth and the Enzo X. Truly is that flexibility. You know, even if you have both of these units, you're still not going to be able to get to all those sounds that you can get to with the Enzo X, and it'll cost you about the same price. So, you know, even the bass synths in here are crazy that I've been able to create, you know, and you can play those with your bass. You can also take the time to play the arpeggiators. And it's still available to you on your bass. Yeah. So it's just stupid. So I mean, I don't know what you mean by which different synth effects do they have and how many? What do you mean? It's a synth pedal. It does mono and it does polyphonic synth, does arpeggiators. Poly and monophonic octavers in there. Now, if you're asking how many effects and stuff in there, it's a ton of effects. The difference between this and a lot of other units, every part of the Enzo X is going to be usable not just for synth stuff, but even for your regular playing. You got drives, you got amazing filters. You got Moog style filters in here, ladder and state variable filters, which is negative 24 dB and 12 dB, negative 12 dB. And you got a twin filter in here. Plus you got, you know, modulations, chorus, phaser, flanger, vibrato, and a bit crusher and ring mod in there. And you can assign all these to different modifiers like LFOs. You get 2 LFO modifiers. Sample and hold, random generator, and then you can assign different parameters to the hold modifier button here, as well as up to 6 parameters to the expression pedal. You can assign different things to the envelope, parameters to the envelope. And if you're not using those 6 slots for the expression pedal, you can reassign them back to the LFOs or the other modifiers and assign more than one thing to them. So you can assign technically to an LFO, you can assign up to 7 things to one LFO. You know, so, and that's a lot of shifting there. But, you know, you get your lead synth sounds. So, I mean, the possibilities is endless with the thing. And like I said, if you want to use it for regular effects, here's an envelope. You can, for instance, you don't need a million filters because, you know, one, the filters in there are amazing. Two, you can make that filter into any type of filter you need it to be. And that also gives you additional flexibility because we're talking, this is a subtractive synth, the same as like a Moog or something like that. So meaning you're pretty much going to create oscillators and then take away things to shape it into different sounds. So So you can use it for just your general effects unit. That's why I don't need any, that's why I don't have any like dedicated modulation pedals or things like that, because between the Enzo X and the Mercury X, that's all the modulations, filters, and overdrives, distortion that I need personally. Not to mention the Future Impact does a lot of those same effects as well. So it gives me different variations of it, even, you know, just having synth pedals as well as its filters, detune, and here as well. And I can have this as a wob or expression, you know, but any of these three pedals that have MIDI, I can assign a filter to the expression pedal and use it as a wob pedal as well, or, you know, a sweeping filter pedal, whatever you want to call it. But beautiful chorus. Flanger. Phaser. You know, and you already have like octavers in here as well. So if you don't want to have to buy another octaver pedal, you know, you don't have to. And it's, you know, just like any good octaver is really based on your tone of your bass. So if you want the sound to have more bottom, you know, you boost your bass frequencies. If you want it to have less, cut your bass frequencies. You want it to have more mids, boost the mids. Less mids, so You know, not a bad sounding octaver at all. Tracks very well. So even the octavers are very, very good, you know. Of course, you can change that to an octave up as well. But, do I still have any octave up pitches in there? Might have got rid of them. Yeah, I got rid of them because I use mostly my POG 3 for that type of stuff anyway, but definitely has a polyphonic and monophonic octavers in there as well. So, you know, you get a whole little package there. It's got full MIDI in and out, you know what I'm saying? It does not now this is where the Future Impact does have a feature over it. You know, the Future Impact will track your bass and then output it to, say, my iPad if I wanted it to. For example, let's take this, run this over here real quick. You gotta have it enabled on the track or do it globally. Oh, gracious, I ain't got none of these enabled. There we go. Let's bring that down. Why is it doing that? Let me close this and open it back up. See if that helps. But as you can hear, it outputs MIDI to other devices as well. Why is it doing that? It's being so weird right now. Hold on, give me 1 second. Let me see this. It's tracking it all weird. It definitely tracks better than that. Let's unplug this, replug it. Now we're going. See if we can get this to act right. Oh, see? see if I can change that. That's what it is. Reload that, man. There we go. So even there you can tell that it's playing the piano sounds. Of course. So let's put this on come on, iPad. It's all, of course, when you go to do it live, it's want to act up. Back on the grand piano. Definitely works better with other sounds, but let's see. Where's he at? 86. First of all, stop playing. Of course, you could balance that any way you wanted to. Say you wanted to do a piano and bass line together. Come on now. Come on now. You can get something done with that, Jay. I'm not necessarily saying this would be for in the studio, but say you were live, and that part was just in there, because sometimes you play hip hop songs that have like piano and synth bass layered, or sometimes it's cool to have a piano and bass layered like that. So with the ability to do that, comes like frees up the pianists from having to do it. To be honest, like they can do other things. They could, even if there's no piano chords, it's just that part. You don't have to have them play that. That definitely helps out. And for us soloists, like myself, allows me to have access to all in one loop. Now I will say you have to make sure you articulate. When you slide, it does like a pitch bend. See? So you can find different uses. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, different synth pedals can do different things and open up a lot of territory and possibility for us bassists and guitarists and things that we couldn't access before without literally altering our bass or guitars. So, you know, try to take advantage of some of this stuff. You know, you got, if I wanted to, you know, any sound pretty much with MIDI in my iPad. So even there, I can, you know, I was playing an EP with the bass. And so you can layer different sounds together. This is things that would have before been so difficult to do, but they're just available. What's going on? Appreciate you stopping by. So, you know, you might want to take advantage of some of this stuff. You know, things like the Future Impact, like I said, the bass sense is crazy. Come on. Right off the back, though, ain't even did nothing. The fact that you could just sweep up. I like, you know, the bass sounds in there are just insane too. So don't sleep on those either. So what I'm actually doing there, I'm actually using the whole modifier button as like a pitch bend. So let me 1, 2, 3, 5. So pretty much set up like the same thing as this pitch bend on this. Right. So, you know, I have things set up like that. So even when I don't have my MIDI controller, I can still do, you know, keyboard type things. But straight from the bass. Let's go back to so just endless possibilities. Yes, it will. It would definitely, the MS-60B Plus will have some of the Ampeg amps modeled in there as well as some synths and even a few pads in there. So you'll actually have a little bit of everything. You'll even have a recording cleaner setting. Then you'll have all of that stuff in there, along with some stuff that you didn't even know that pedal could do. So definitely grab that preset pack, the MS-60B Plus preset pack from the Patreon. And if you haven't already, in general, check out my preset packs on Patreon. You know, you got there for the Zoom pedals, MS-60B Plus, MS-70 CDR Plus, and the Zoom B6. By the way, there's videos on any preset pack that I've released. So if you ever have any questions about the preset packs, if you go to my page and you look up, the preset pack for it, it'll be there. So that's something you can actually hear, and you'll actually see me playing through those presets as well. So no need to speculate. Always, more than likely, if somebody has a preset pack and they're a YouTuber, they probably have videos on it, videos dealing with it in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, it's just a whole vibe for real. No problem. Thank you. I appreciate the interest. As well as if there's 20-something different preset packs for the Tonex and Tonex ones, including combination packs with the color box and like other bass preamps. So the color box running into different preamps as well. So I got combination packs as well as the individual packs of the different preamps. I think it's 11 or 12 different individual preamps available. And then we got preset packs for the Enzo X, which I'll be updating. That's what I'm doing now. A lot of this that I'm going through is going to be available in an updated pack. If you already bought the Enzo X pack, I will be hitting you up with the update for free. I'm not even going to make you pay for it. You know why? Because as I improve my settings with it, I want, this particular pedal, took me pretty much a year to master, because I had to learn sound design, and a whole bunch of other stuff to be able to pull these sounds off, So, it definitely took some time, but you get to skip that whole process by buying the preset packs. And the preset packs for the Mercury X and the C4 synth are also available on there. So definitely check all that stuff out, So even things like that where you can jump octaves really easily by assigning that to the whole modifier or different things allows you to really get into some real synth-based stuff. You know, like I said, I'm not saying that you can't do that with the C4 synth or the Future Impact V4 VIP. It's just much more routing involved and just other things involved. Even if you wanted to do something like that with the bass synth, you can do something similar, but it ain't gonna be quite like that, like as smooth and where, you know, plus you can't play these two with a MIDI controller. So and you know, that pitch bend, that octave pitch bend works for MIDI and when you're playing it with your bass. Ooh, that's loud. Sorry about that, guys. Come on now. And magically, a lot of these bass synths also work as lead sound. So simply by attaching, you know, having that pitch bend in there, that octave pitch bend. And mind you, all I'm doing is pressing a foot switch because I have it assigned to one of the foot switches I have down here on the floor. Oh, I forgot to tell you guys that again. What you can't see on the floor is a 10-foot switch for the Graviton M1, and then there's a MIDI captain as well, so it's a total of 20-foot switches down here on the floor that I use to control the pedal board wirelessly without, you know, touching it. So allows me to pretty much be able to trigger things if I need it, or pitch bends. As well as it allows me to sustain things as well. Let's see. And I can just sustain that and play over it. So it allows me to do different various things like this. And I can just do it from without ever touching the pedal board. If I wanted to go to my solo sounds. As well as switch back to my regular bass sounds. And that effect actually is on the Mercury X. You see why I don't need to get nothing else? Between the Mercury X and the Enzo X, those, it's got great compression, great freeze options. You can also have a freeze and glissando mode on the the Pog 3, but great freeze function on there. Great modulations on there that are different than the ones on the Enzo X. And it also has the same filters and drives, which I love, which means I can use them more than once in different places. It's got delays in there. You can create pretty much any type of delay that you would need, or find in any basic multi-effects unit, and more, and of course it's a reverb unit. So the best things in there, the reverbs are insane, as you've heard so far. But even with your regular bass sounds, bring in that ring mod. Oh, gotta press this again. Bing. This should have cut on. This is 127. Let's try that again. Bam. Right. There we go. Mind you, that is the ring mod from here, and that there's a modulation in there that's actually doing a lot of that bass balls type filtering. And it's like I have a bass balls on LFO, so go straight to my dry bass sound, or chorus, flanging, phasing, solo, octave down, so having a nice MIDI controller for your stuff definitely helps cut down on some of the confusion when you're doing different things. So I know all my basic bass and solo and just an octave down sound is going to be on that first page there. Next page is going to be all my different pads, as well as like just general keyboard sounds, clavinet. Even organ. Come on. Where is it? that Leslie is coming from the Mercury X. It's a tremolo effect that I set to be triggered and time the speed of it. You know, I could even set it so I could time the speed of that tremolo effect from a slower tremolo to something faster. You know, and that's very important for organ sound at the time of that Leslie and things like that. So, and you know, the versatility of the Enzo X when it comes to just everything. Next page is solo sounds, or you know, the horn sounds we were going through. You know, you can't get no more performance friendly than that with, you know, mind you, this is the main gigging board. This is a studio board for when I need this stuff or extra effects. But this is the main gigging board. So all I have to do is take this. It's all powered by one plug. The foot switches are wireless, and they both have rechargeable batteries in them, so I don't have to plug the foot switches in. So I turn everything on. They automatically connect to here, and this is connected to the CME H4 MIDI Pro underneath the board, which is coming out this side. So this entire board, this MIDI controller with touchscreen and foot switch controller, the MIDI controller, and all of that is powered off of one power output, one power outlet, because of the Canvas the Canvas Power 15 underneath, which, you know, I still have room on that board. You know, I'm not using all 15 power slots, and I'm still powering the MIDI controller as well. And so this setup, the way I have it set up, it doesn't seem like I have everything that you know, you might see other guys have, but in reality, this is closer for me moving towards the future. I can't get any multi-effects unit that can handle this workload this way. There isn't one. They're going to give you a bunch of, I'm just going to be real, I get a lot of useless effects out of a lot of brands. Like, you know, you'll always find one or two choruses that you like, one or two phases or flangers. But in reality, you really don't need that. You know, you need one really good chorus, one really good flanger that's flexible. Same thing with the phaser and everything else. If you can do different modifications to it, where you can pretty much assign, you know, LFO to different parts of it. You know, you can, you know, have different random things happening with it. You can create pretty much the majority of what other pedals do with something like the Enzo X. So, you know, not to mention it's a full featured synth that still gets you All these different types of sounds, you know, and it's still only $600. You could spend more than that on a multi-effects unit that's not going to do half as much. Appreciate you, Stevens. Appreciate you. Let's see what else we got. Matthias, appreciate you following as well. Subscribing. I appreciate all y'all. Don't forget to like and subscribe, you know. And make sure you check out the shorts and different things that I got posting. I got shorts posting every 2 hours from these live streams and stuff. Because I know it's a long, they'd be long. These things be 2-3 hours. I know everybody don't have 2-3 hours to watch all this stuff. So I started breaking down a lot of the live streams into the smaller videos, even 5-minute videos, you know, things like that, where you guys will get a chance to really have each little, topic we may have discussed broken down a little bit further. Well, broken down into just a little small segment you can watch real quick. So, you get your tips and tricks that way as well. You ain't got to all, you do got to catch the live stream. Don't get me wrong now. Catch my live stream. But if you happen to miss the live stream, make sure you checking out the shorts and the regular videos I post as well. So. So yeah, it's just a lot of possibilities in here. Actually, I run out of space, and I have to make real life decisions with this Enzo X sometimes. Like I be over this joint sweating, like what can I get rid of that I'm not using on this joint, so I can create more patches. Because as you learn more with it, you start to really, your imagination starts to grow. Like my sound, the sounds I hear aren't always closer to real instruments like this. Like I just happened to yesterday evening, was like, let me go through and try to create some flute and saxophone, trumpet, that type of thing, And of course, if I want to get like a trombone sound, it's not far from a trumpet, If I want a clarinet sound, it's not far from a saxophone sound, So that's why I wanted to start there, and then eventually I'll probably create some more, the rest of the horns. I even got that little harmonica type sound, which isn't far from an accordion type sound, to be honest. So eventually I'll get to doing the offsprings of these sounds, which is, get me closer to other instruments. And in reality, it's never going to be a real saxophone sound. A real saxophone sounds like a real saxophone, just like keyboards don't really sound like pianos. Contrary to the belief, it's a piano-esque sound. But if you hear a real grand piano in person, it is not the same as hearing it on a keyboard. Same thing with a Rhodes. It can sound very close, but the real thing just sounds a lot better. So that's why I always recommend with synth pedals, for the most part, the Future Impact V4 is the only thing I ran across that I can duplicate those vintage bass analog synths with. That's the only one. Everything else, I use it for what it is, especially the Enzo X. Enzo X actually can actually get a lot of those classic like CS80 type sounds or you know, a lot of the polyphonic synthesizer type sounds from back in the day, while the Future Impact does a better job of getting those monophonic synths. And I'm sure I can probably get these on the Enzo X a lot closer, you know, as I learn more about the different features. And, you know, I pretty much know everything there is to know about it. But as I get a better grasp on, I guess, sound design more so, you're only limited by your imagination a lot of the time with things. Like I used to take my bass and get it to sound like a choir and an orchestra without any MIDI involved. So, you know, just using effects. So I know these things are possible with an actual synthesizer. I just have to take my time and learn it. And that's why I create the preset packs for you guys, because I know everybody doesn't have the time to spend on that. Like, that is a lot of time that I've spent with the Enzo X. And, you know, to get it to where everything's just dialed in like this, and I can just pull up effects and use my MIDI controller to just switch everything along with the other patches from the other pedal. Each one of these pedals has taken hours for me to really learn. Well, except for like the, you know, Empress compressor wasn't something that needed hours. And neither was it the Jam Man Solo HD. The loopers take a while to get used to just because of looping the itself, but the pedal was easy to use. The rest of this had to spend hours learning how to use it, either setting it up, then getting it all to work together, figuring out, experimenting with what combinations of effects I wanted together, then setting up all the MIDI stuff and all the MIDI signals and, you know, filtering out certain messages from this, making sure that this won't glitch out, that's not going to be this and this and that. So it's been hours and hours, you know, weeks and months of me getting to know these different pedals and what they can do. And so, you know, that's part of the reason why I do the preset packs. It definitely will take a ton of hours out of your learning curve. Why? Because not just because you'll have instant access to the sounds, once you have the pack, you also will get to learn what the real capabilities of the entire unit is, you know, as well as you'll start to see new possibilities that I may not have saw, or that the creators may not have saw. That's why there's things that I've done with this pedal, you know, that I don't see other YouTubers doing with it, or, you know, anybody I've seen doing these exact type of things. But most people would just be like, why don't you just get a keyboard, you know, because that's not cool. It's like, no, that's cool. But, you know, in all honesty, like, I have a real obsession with getting bassists and myself mostly to be able to get to different sounds from my bass. You know, pianists and keyboardists have been doing it for years. Drummers been doing it for years. They even got electronic drum sets and all this other stuff where they can change all the sounds and create entire projects by themselves, you know, without using another instrument. Like, pianists or keyboardists can literally, they got all their sounds programmed already. For us, a lot of our stuff like this isn't programmed already. So you have to have somebody like myself in the community that makes those presets and, you know, helps everybody else out. Now, can I do it for free? No, I cannot, but I can do it, and I can keep it at a reasonable price. And like I said, education costs everybody. It ain't just the sounds you're getting. You actually, well, if you go through the sounds, you know, and look at how I put things together, you'll learn how to then create your own and hopefully be inspired. That's always one of the things I like to do on this channel, is inspire you guys to try different sounds. Don't get stuck in a box because they tell you you're a bass player. I hate that. Yeah. And a lot of times it be, you know who it be? You know who it be the most? Other bass players. It be them other bass players the most. You know what I'm saying? Like, Don't let them put you in a box. Tell you just need to learn how to play bass. I already know how to play bass. I already know how to do walking bass lines. I know how to do everything involved with my job that I've been doing for 30 plus years, and I'm only 36. I've been doing it for 32 years. I know how to play bass. That's not a problem. What I'm doing now is exploring beyond that. So for creativity purposes, compositions, keeping myself inspired. When you've been doing music that long, it is hard to stay inspired sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it get away from you. When you got kids, a family, and life starts happening, bills start coming in, sometimes it's hard to just stay inspired and be creative. But having wonderful tools like the Enzo X definitely, makes you look forward to picking that instrument up again, and that's another reason why I love effects pedals. Besides the playing aspect, which I already know how to do. And I do it every day. Ain't like I'm going to lose my playing abilities playing every single day. That's not going to happen. But you can get in a mode where you're writing the same things over and over again. And for me, it that can mean using the same sounds, not necessarily always using the same groove, or, I'm not meaning like you writing a bunch of minor pentatonic grooves, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying not that's not what I'm talking about. Of course, you want to branch out beyond that, but I'm talking about when you're actually like everything starts sounding the same, like everything just becomes cookie cutter, having something that inspires you. And mind you, I don't get paid nothing from Meris to talk about the Enzo X. I'm not telling you guys this stuff because I'm getting some kickback from them. I'm telling you because this is like my honest, story with it. That and things like each one of these pedals, like the Mercury X as well, have definitely inspired me to create different sounds, write new songs, and just never lose sight of the simplicity while I'm writing all these complex chord changes and this and that, right? How just a simple ba, how beautiful that can be. How simple and beautiful one note really can be with the right circumstances. Instance, let's see. Just one note. But there's so much going on there. So, never forgetting that, music is emotion. Some emotions don't require too much. Some emotions require just simplicity. as you learn more with music and become more sophisticated and complex with your playing, never forget that simplicity still works. Even if you started getting into film scoring or writing for movies and TV or whatever, the stuff is simple. Pop records are simple. It is what it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's always, I think most even complex composers rewrite simple stuff. Like, I can write a song with 1 million chord changes in it and take you through every ring array, you know what I'm saying? Or I can just give you one. I can just give you one chord change. And the real sign of a real true composer, musician, and like real musicianship is being able to take that one chord and do just as much as you can do with 1 million chords and make it sound sound amazing, just as amazing, where it feels like you're doing more. There's nothing wrong with repetition, in your writing as well. Some songs is just 2 bars. Some songs is just 1 bar for real, and it's just repeated. You gotta remember, like, how music first started in tribal days. It was very repetitive. Like, those drum beats were very repetitive, and they stayed there for a long time. I grew up here in Washington, D.C. area. I live right outside of Washington, D.C. in Maryland now. But go-go will have the same drum beat for 2 hours. And I guarantee you will be entertained the entire time. You won't even realize it. I mean, you'll realize it, but you won't care because the party never stopped. That's the whole point of, like, when you're listening to, if you ever get a chance to listen to Chuck Brown or go-go, the whole point of it is that to keep people dancing, keep people up on the floor, doing different things. So, simplicity and having those tribal things of the repetition just over and over again. That touches people. Like, that touches the sophisticated, that touches the least, sophisticated or educated person ever. Chuck Brown is a guitarist from North Carolina, but he moved to Washington, D.C. and is known as the godfather of go-go. Go-go is a type of music that is pretty much a slow funk with, like, Cuban drums, Cuban percussion put on top of it, and it's typically it's a slower funk, and it's a long groove. Trying to think what's a good album to put you on. If you look up, like, Chuck Brown at the 930 Club, and you'll see some good stuff there. But that's the essence of where I grew up. Like, that's the main musical style here, is a slow funk. So if you notice, like, I do write faster stuff, but I write a lot of stuff that you can actually feel or groove to, because that's what I grew up around, and I'm not afraid to write simplistic stuff. So make sure that you don't just throw those ideas away. Just record them and file them for later. When you need them, you can pull them out, or you can take some of those ideas and combine them later. So that's why I suggest everybody have some sort of looper on their pedal board that you can record your ideas and store them. So as you have ideas, you're not throwing down. Y'all could be throwing away $1 million ideas. Y'all, you don't know, just because you're not super known and you don't think that you're the greatest musician ever, that ain't never stopped nobody from writing a hit. That ain't never stopped nobody from writing a hit. So Don't throw your ideas away. Your ideas are not trash or it's just basic. No, stop that. Stop that. Record it. Find a way to, quickly lay it down somewhere. Like I suggest a looper. And lay down your quick ideas and just store them. Store them for later. I guarantee you will be much better off having a catalog of music that you can go through and listen through when you need stuff. Say somebody need a song written or you need this. You don't know what opportunities can come your way, but you already got to be prepared for a lot of them. Somebody called me for an opportunity, was like, yo, I need a song for this. I said, bam, in less than an hour. After going through my music catalog, I didn't have to go and create nothing new. I just went through my music catalog and sent them something. It's like, bam, that's perfect. See? If I hadn't recorded that idea, and that whole song is 4 chords. But for their purposes, what they needed it for, and what apparently I needed it for, because that's going to be a great paycheck, it helps out. So, all right, guys, that's all I'm going to do for today. Hope that helped you out. Lots of little pep talk there. You know what I'm saying? Stay in the game. Just keep your head up. Go make some money. Go enjoy your day. But I appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Again, follow me on Patreon and all social media at the Bass Negus. On Patreon, it's patreon.com/allbasscreations. And you can find all my preset packs for the Zoom pedals, B6, MS60B Plus, MS70 CDR Plus, 20-something different preamp, bass preamp packs for the Tonix and Tonix 1 on my Enzo X pack, Mercury X pack, C4 synth pack, and, there's going to be more. So check all that stuff out. If you want to support the channel for $1, $5 a month, you can do that over on the Patreon. If you want to hit the Cash App, Super Chat, I greatly appreciate it. And shout out to all my current Patreon subscribers and people that have patronized the Patreon page. Thank you very much for buying the preset packs, and I will check you guys later, though. It's been wonderful. Have a wonderful day. Oh, follow me on all social media at the Bass Negus.